NEWS.MC on Monaco Info is brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties. Our exclusive interview with the personalities making the Principality.
My name is Renato Ricci. I'm the director of Plaisirs du Palais and Bart AI. I was born and raised here. Both my parents are Italian, but moved here in the early 80s. So I went to FNB, and then for the high school, I went to Lycée Albert Premier. And then every weekend, we would go back to Imperia, where my family is from. And then I did a master's at the London School of Economics in London for international business with economics. And I did an exchange in Singapore. So I was there for 6 months. And then I went back to London to finish my studies. And so that was like sort of the first part of my life. Actually, I went to Dubai for almost 2 years. I was a management consultant there. So I was working in the strategy department of PricewaterhouseCoopers. We were working with most of the ministries, a lot of public affairs. So we did a project with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Qatar, the Ministry of Finance for the UAE, Department of Tourism and Commerce Authority for Dubai to increase the number of tourists that would come to Dubai on a yearly basis. It was really interesting. I'm really glad that I started my career in the Middle East because when you finish university, at my time, you basically had 3 choices. It was either investment banking, consulting, or marketing FMCGs or like Google, but no startup, no entrepreneurship. It was not like this at all. I think now it has kind of changed. And so if I were to sort of be indoctrinated into choosing one of those paths, I choose the one that at least gave you more growth opportunities, which was going in a developing region like the Middle East. And it was amazing. Like working on such impactful projects, like setting up a vocational college or doing like this 6 billion economic development fund to invest into other Muslim countries for Qatar. I mean, it was like, at my age, I was like 24, right out of university. It was a really good exposure. But then I felt that I was a bit plateauing in terms of like the skill set that I wanted to acquire. I felt that I already acquired a lot of it after 2 years, and I always wanted to start my own company. And so I figured, why not come back to Monaco and try to do it here, given that I'm from here. I just quickly realized that at the time, I didn't feel like it was the best place for my ambitions. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I felt that maybe I needed a bit more experience. I essentially decided that, hey, maybe I need to seek the experience elsewhere again. And I found out that there was a hackathon organized in Berlin. A hackathon is an event that in 2 days, 48 hours, you have to figure out a business idea and pitch it. And if they like it, they can fund you. And then from there, potentially you can start a company with people you just met in the room. I went with a friend, and then my friend, me, and 3 other random guys essentially won the hackathon. And the hackathon was organized by an accelerator. And they essentially liked my profile and were like, why don't you come work with us for 3 months and work alongside all these entrepreneurs? And I was like, it's perfect. It's exactly the kind of exposure I wanted. Short term, go there, and then maybe I can come back with some learnings. In retail, especially for consumer electronics, think of a robot vacuum cleaner. It's very hard for you to try a robot vacuum cleaner or to want to spend whatever, $500 on it without trying it first. But to try it, you need to buy it. And so you're dissuaded from actually buying it, although you can return it. The returns are annoying, you have to put the money down. There's a lot of friction in the experience. And so we thought that it would be a better way to expose people to more expensive, higher-end products through a try before you buy program. So we would put a button on brands' websites that allowed customers to try the product for $0 down or €0 down before they buy it, with instant delivery to your household, so same-day delivery. In 2019, we raised $4 million, and then obviously COVID hit. So we lost all these contracts. Thankfully, we had the money, right, because we didn't spend a whole lot of it yet, because we hadn't launched with most of these brands. And it was a difficult 2 years. We moved from New York to LA and tried to relaunch the business out of there. And then we did. We pivoted completely, and we essentially said well, why don't we also, instead of just doing try before you buy, also help the brands manage all their returns from all the channels that they have. So not only ours, but Amazon, Best Buy, and also resell them on all the platforms we can find. So again, Amazon, eBay, Walmart, whatnot. And so we did that in Pivot in 2023. We grew 20x in 1.5 years. We were ranked America's 165th fastest growing company. Everything that could go wrong went wrong during that year in terms of operational challenges, because we went from a 1,000 meters warehouse to a 6,000 meters warehouse and then to a 60,000 meter. I mean, it was like complete chaos. Burnt a lot of money, but also like grew a ton. And then in October of 2025, I decided it was a good time for me to exit my shareholding and come back here to Monaco to start a family and also help my parents retire. My dad used to race for Monaco. He was a professional go-kart driver, so he raced for the automobile club. And then they offered him the residency as a result. And then he implanted himself in Monaco, around the early 80s. And he met my mother in Italy, and then they both moved here. And then my dad always liked coffee, so he started a coffee distribution company in northern Italy, so around vending machines and little capsules. At the time, there was no Nespresso. And then in the meantime, he had started a similar company here in Monaco, which is called Plaisirs du Palais, which is where I spend a good chunk of my time now. And then my mom sold her activity too around the same time, and then they both work together now in this Plaisirs du Palais venture. I pretty much run two businesses. So one is my parents' business, so Plaisirs du Palais. It's been established for over 35 years in Monaco. It's the largest vending machine operator business in the Principality. Hundreds of clients like the hospital or many offices in Fontvieille, the CFM, and other establishments as well as public locations. So there I basically run the commercial department, so both expanding the business with existing accounts. So that's the core. And then the second business I have, which is in my own non personnel, my own name, is an AI consulting business. I've always been passionate about technology. Ever since last October, when I exited my shareholding, I had a lot more time during the first few months, organizing the move back here. And before I started with my parents' business full time, I educated myself a lot around AI. Nowadays with YouTube and Coursera, you can basically get pretty good education around new topics pretty quickly. And so I feel that now, especially for small businesses like my parents, having an AI injected into your processes can really help you gain a huge advantage compared to what you had before in terms of spending a lot less time doing things that are time consuming and not value add, and just delegating that to a better way of using technology. And so right now I'm developing an ERP, which is an enterprise resource planning for the vending machine business of my parents, and using it to improve the way we rotate products inside the machines, the way we analyze the business, the way we manage preemption dates, the way we manage purchases, the way we manage customer satisfaction. It's amazing. It's really fun. Also to pretty much build it by yourself. You can use tools like Cloud Code or Cursor to code. I think before it was a big barrier for non-technical people. That barrier is pretty much extinguished, and I think will be totally extinguished in the next 3 to 5 years. I think it's a great time to be alive and witness this revolution that such a great technology is bringing. It's a very difficult question because when you look back, for example, when the internet came about, right, and all these printing jobs, all these encyclopedias, newspapers, it dramatically changed the industry. It certainly killed a lot of jobs, but it also created a lot more opportunities and a lot more jobs. So I think to your point, we're so early on, but it's unclear exactly, what kind of additional opportunities it will create. I think for now, the advice I would give to myself if I were younger, in my early 20s, starting a career, I would be it's such an asset to master and you can do so much now with it, but I would just try to learn as much as I can and use it as an advantage to get the job that I really want. I think the biggest obstacle that we face to a better and wider adoption is probably people. I see it myself sometimes. For me to change the way I've been doing certain processes or things takes me a lot of time, and you can only imagine in massive corporations when you also have hundreds of jobs at stake, right? When you launch such a big initiative, there can be some resistance to change. So I think it's number one is more of the human nature of how the technology is being adopted. I think the technology itself is evolving, exponentially. It's getting better and better by the day. Every 3 months, there's either Google or Perplexity that are launching new models that get better by the day. So it's scary sometimes even how fast we can make sure that it's developed in a responsible way. I think a lot of people are calling for that, but a regulation that also doesn't. When we tend to regulate things, we also tend to slow down development. It's easier said than done, but something that can strike a fine balance between can we continue on improving it without making it dangerous both at the job level as well as the potential humanity level. We deal more with like servicing the machine, not building them, but I'll give you what I think on the build side could be interesting, is that I think like nowadays maybe somebody could just come to the machine and be like, hey, can you make me my favorite, I'm Stefan, can you make me my favorite latte? Just as you know that, you want to make it, and it gives you, you can regulate it to giving you exactly the number of grams of milk and coffee and sugar that you want, and really trying to create like a very customized experience just for you, just through voice. Right? When you think about it now, it's like you go, you press a button, and like you could be anybody. All these little things are all things that with the use of like software and AI, you can really help improve. Without the help of that, it would be a lot of like little tiny details that in the end of the day, they add up and they can create customer dissatisfaction because it's always some of little things, versus with the use of technology and AI, you can really streamline and improve that. I think the challenge is more like, tech jobs and like engineers and whatnot. Like those people tend to be still like mostly located even outside of Europe, really for the most part, or in Eastern Europe. But for anything related to like more, cafes, restaurants or whatnot, I mean, you see it here. Every time there's like an opportunity, somebody grabs it right away. So I think it's pretty telling around, how easy and interesting the government has made it to become like an entrepreneur here. Now I think it's changing a lot. Like I'm also trying to bring forward the concept of trying to source much healthier snacks. It comes at a higher price. So I think we're still in this transition of, hey, I could buy a Kit Kat for €1 and the healthy snack, it costs me €1.50. I think there's still a gap to be bridged there, but definitely it's going that way. So whether it's, for example, people putting their own cup inside the machine so that the machine doesn't distribute the cup, or using only recycled materials, machines that have low consumptions of electricity, or that maybe they shut themselves down at night when people are not using them. So all of that industry is definitely trending towards this environmental and social responsibility themes. I think at the beginning I was a bit too head-on, like, looking back and like doing some reflection. When you've been running a company successfully for 35 years, it's very hard to change habits. Also with age in general, it's harder for people to change. I think on the other side, for me, like coming in and like having started a business, right, like less than 10 years ago, really, with all the new technologies that are available, I can see how some changes can make like a great impact into the day-to-day. And to your point, like trying to find like a balance here, as I'm not gonna lie, has been hard and it's still hard. And I think it's kind of normal. And I think the important thing is like trying to balance both points of view, especially talking about me, like not trying to impose things and move too fast, but rather understand that the business has been built over the years and that it's not gonna change within like 6 months. Trying to do like targeted experiments that can show value. That's kind of what I've been doing. And then from there say like, look, we did this small pilot on these clients. This is, the impact it had, right? Either it took less time to replenish the machines or it brought this much additional revenue. So now that we've validated this small business case, let's roll it out to the rest of the clients slowly. And I think it can be perceived as a war and you have to like win it one battle at a time. When you raise in a city, like you have an anchor here that stems away from just family. It's also like, the style of life. I mean, here, the weather is beautiful. The quality of life is unreal. You feel safe at all times. You meet people it's extremely international. It's like small enough that you know most people, but people don't know all your intimate details and you can share with who you want. Versus in other cities, like you would go and like, sure, you have like your little group, but like you go to a cafe there, you can go 50 times. They would almost never like recognize you because people come and go. They churn. Here, like you go to a place like 5 times and you're like already friends with like the owners, and it has that vibe, but I think it's hard to find in like much bigger cities. It's hard when you travel so much, like sure you meet a lot of people from many different places. Your heart shell is like where you're born in the end. And so I always had this tendency to come back.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching NEWS.MC, your English rendezvous on Monaco Info. Discover more interviews and stories on our websites, NEWS.MC and MonacoInfo.com. This show was brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties.